Voxhill became a member.
What is up, everybody? Um, no promises, Pudgy. Yeah. Hey, Box Hill. Also, thanks for the new membership. I appreciate that. Saw that during the intro. But yeah, so the reason for the title is the last video, for some reason, got a bunch of like a fair bit of like, I wouldn't even say anti-gravel bike. There is one guy, but he was clearly just a troll. I think that was unrelated. But a number of like, just like, who cares what you call bikes? And I don't know if any of you saw the Russ with Pathless Pedaled video. We talked a lot about like people will comment, yeah, just ride bikes. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But you're watching a YouTube video about bikes. The algorithm served you this video because you watch bike stuff. You probably have a working knowledge of different kinds of bikes. And so I was curious from you guys because, you know, I watch cycling YouTube, but I don't watch all of it. It's not the only thing I watch. Like, as I've said before, I'm a history nerd. I'm a physics nerd. Mostly a camera nerd. So I'm wondering if anyone has seen something, like, has there been a big YouTuber who came out lately with like the whole gravel bike thing is stupid? Because I kind of thought that thing, like, kind of that ship had sailed. Like, besides like hardcore roadies who want to make fun of gravel, I thought like the whole idea of like worrying about things being called a gravel bike was over. Like, we've just accepted that's the term for what a drop bar bike that fits wider tires and is slacker than a road bike is. And so I was just really surprised to see like, and it wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough that I felt like something happened somewhere. Someone has set people off about this topic again. So I don't know if anyone knows of like a video that has been out there that is kind of blown up by someone bigger. Let me know. Because yeah, again, the comments of like just go ride your bike. I'm always like, yes, just go ride your bike, but then go ride your bike right now and stop watching this video. Like, I mean, and my channel is like the least gear related channel out there, right? Like not the least, but most of my videos are just about riding bikes, and I make some gear videos or I comment on some of the gear. So I just thought it was kind of interesting that one of my videos would get like these kind of comments, like all of a sudden, all at once, when I've been making videos about bikes for years and using the term industrial gravel and calling my drop bar bike a gravel bike. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing that happened. So I'm just curious what you guys think. But I think whether you love or whether you hate the term gravel bike, it is just the term. And I've always made the analogy, and I've made it a million times on this channel and on these live streams. We all accept the term mountain bikes because it's just been around forever, but that's an awful term as well. Because I've never ridden my mountain bike in the mountains. Well, I'm sure I have in the Appalachians somewhere, but I don't ride my mountain bike in the mountains very often. And my local mountain bike trails are not in the mountains, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And I think the same thing is with gravel bikes. Like, I ride my gravel bike on the road more than anything else. Probably number 2, I ride it on dirt. Once in a while, I ride it on the mountain bike trails. But the term is gravel bike. I like the term all-road bike that a couple of you have already said. I think it's a better term, but it's not going to catch on. And if it does, maybe it will in years. But we're at a place where this is what we call them, and we all know what I'm talking about when I say it, or 90% of people watching a bike channel know what I'm talking about. So I had a shoot yesterday or 2 days ago in Akron, and a guy asked, oh, you ride bikes? It came up somehow. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you do off-road or do you do like road riding? And I said both. To that guy, I don't need to break down the nuance of when does a drop bar gravel bike become a drop bar mountain bike or a flat bar gravel bike, or where does ATB all-terrain bikes fit in there? That's not the conversation I need to have with this guy who is just getting to know me a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I ride everything. Sometimes I mix it up even on one ride. I ride a bike with slightly wider tires. I get that. You right now, and I'm not talking to you guys because you're probably not the ones who wrote those comments, are watching a live stream about bikes. Or if you click through to my video, like I said, the algorithm served you a video about bikes. So that means because you watch a lot of stuff about bikes and you probably know the categories. So curious to jump into the comments here, but I'm not even ranting because I don't even really care. I just not that I don't care, but it's just a weird thing to me that, like, because a lot of the comments were like, do we really need another term? And I'm like, well, this term has now been around for a long time. My gravel bike is a 2014, and it was designed to race unbound. That was the idea. My bike wouldn't be considered a race bike by today's standards, which have gone way more road bike style geometry. But still, it was called that in 2014. I just thought that name it's etched in. It's what it is. So, yeah. Going to scroll back to where I saw a lot of you guys say hi. I'm going to skip the whole roll call. I'm going to do that more and more now because then I just get so far behind by saying hello to everybody. So, yeah. Donald said, I put gravel bike tires on my road bike and is now much more capable and comfortable than before. And that's how I started. I was just taking old road bikes. And like I said, a lot of them have the US 27-inch wheels and not the modern 27, an old school 27. So 700C is actually smaller. And if you put those wheels on, it could give you a little more clearance. And I've gotten up to like 38s on old vintage bikes. And that's for a long time what I considered my gravel bikes. But yeah. You call bicycles, Pudgy? What popular YouTuber is making clickbait? Every video that probably is served to you has some element of clickbait or wouldn't have gotten served to you.
Standy became a member. Standy celebrates 52 months of membership. Pinecone is a term. Banana emoji, banana emoji, banana emoji, flying saucer emoji, Santa Claus emoji, egg emoji, salt emoji, toilet roll emoji, monkey emoji, see no evil monkey emoji, hear no evil monkey emoji, speak no evil monkey emoji, pig nose emoji, blueberries emoji, coconut emoji.
Thanks for the membership, as always, Jay Dandy. We had a map-heavy episode that you missed, by the way. Or you could have been watching, you weren't commenting on. Blame that Terry B guy because he's always causing problems. I did see that he finally returned to the U.S. I actually saw that on Strava, which is surprising. 27.5 and 26-inch tire options are less and less. I don't find that, but Naptown said I haven't seen anything like that. Yeah. Whatever happened to run what you brung? So this is like, I guess this is where, and this is what I was talking to Russ and Nolan about, that I think is the important thing. And the analogy I made in that case was, if I said to one of you guys, do you want to go see music tonight? And you'd be like, well, I want a little more information. Like, what are we going to see? And I think I said, you're some anarcho crust punk and it's bullshit pop country. You're not going to have a good time. And so, like, that's the reason, like, again, like, to just ride your bikes or, like, what happened to run what you brung. Absolutely, that's fine. But, like, when my buddy Large plans a route that we're going to go ride, we ask or he just gives us, or we ask some information. Like, how chunky is it? How much road is there? And people who ride their bikes a lot want to pick the bike for that. And I get some people have one bike and you do it all with that. That's fine. A lot of us on here, I would say the majority, have multiple, and we use them for different niches. Like, if it's going to be lean, heavy road, but there's going to be some rough stuff, I'm going to take my drop bar gravel bike on its 44s. If it's going to be mostly off-road and chunky with a little bit of road, then I'm going to ride my Gunner, which I kind of consider an ATB or rigid mountain bike, but it's got sweep bars and 55s. And so that's just relevant information for me to enjoy what I'm going to do better. And like I said, it just makes sense, right? You wouldn't bring a downhill mountain bike to a road ride. That would be dumb. That's why you wouldn't just say to someone who you know rides everything and has multiple bikes, like, hey, do you want to go ride bikes? Meet me at 3. You'd give some information and context, right? And that's just why we have words for things, So, and same thing, I've talked about it before with the bike packing, bike touring, and the way those terms are evolving, but they do still matter because you don't want to load up a classic 70s touring bike and then find out you're going to do the, Great Divide because you're going to die, So, I don't know. Let me know. Yeah. Axel said, yes, these names are terrible, says the English major. Yeah. But again, like, once something's accepted, I don't really care. I mean, like, again, like mountain bike, but who cares? We all know what it means. Gravel bike. You know what the picture is in your head when I say it, right? KT said the subcategory of bikes are getting crazy. But again, more options. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, right? So if you want to dial in what you love to do and you can buy the right bike for that job, if you mostly ride one things or if you buy multiple bikes to do specific things, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I think a lot of people were worried when the UCI started having gravel races. I don't think this. People were talking about it all the time, that all gravel bikes are now just going to be race bikes. And that's what the major brands are pretty much doing. But I think it's awesome because there's all these other brands like Wild and Crust and, what QBP makes with Surly and all that are filling in the niche to make it a broad category of you have all these options, a bike that will handle better with sweep bars and wide tires or handle better with drop bars and wide tires. I think this is, I don't understand where anyone thinks this is a bad thing. And I get that was what some of the comments were. It's like, do we need another name for something? And it's like, yeah,
Pudgy
we
Pedal
do.
Pusher became a member. Pudgy Pedal Pusher celebrates 53 months of membership. Fart, broccoli emoji, emojo, broccoli emoji, emoji, broccoli emoji, rusty trombone pickings.
There's a rusty trombone emoji? Isn't that like a gross sex move? But yeah, again, and then so what happens is when you start to say, well, it's a flat bar gravel bike, that I like to race on, it has wider tires. I just pick the random things off the top of my head. Eventually, if there's enough of those, it does get a name, right? Because you have to keep putting all these qualifiers on everything you're saying, and that's how language works, right? Then we invent a word for it, like. And I'm sure that's what happened with gravel bikes, because people were modifying cross bikes to race gravel and modifying mountain bikes to race gravel. They met in the middle, and then we had gravel bikes. That's good, right? You know, you could say trail bike, but now that's a specific kind of mountain bike. All-terrain bikes, again, yeah. But like even ATB, that has its own. It could be broad, but people like have a more specific idea of what that means too. I did say that Thrifty Frame Builder, the guy who was like, and again, I know some of you were joking with the any bike's a gravel bike. I started riding when I started finding the industrial gravel. Me and Lars were riding it on. He was on a single speed, a track style bike, and I was on a vintage road bike, and we did it. And then when Otis opened Dirty River and he let me ride some gravel bikes, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to get my ass kicked riding this stuff. And as you get older, I think that's another thing. And I think so. Some of you are younger, you're like, I'll just ride my track bike or my road bike over whatever I want. Trust me, at someday you're not going to want to do that anymore. So, whoops, I just scrolled down and skipped every comment. Oh, do I not have this on Top Chat? Excuse me. I talk so much and so fast, I've lost my whatever voice. Oh, I see. A couple of you were talking to each other there. So, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. Unless you get dropped off by a helicopter at the top of a 4,000-meter mountain, it's not mountain biking. Pudgy, it always comes back to Grant Peterson with you. What's up, Danny Boyle? And also, we don't have to talk about this for the whole like hour or whatever. I just did something that I was just curious to like crowdsource.
Pudgy Pedal Pusher Super Chatted $1.99. My name is Timmy and pickles make me frisky in the jeans emoji.
I was so expecting that voice to say pants. That's what made it even funnier. They call races gravel races. It follows that those races are done on gravel bikes of some sort. Yeah. And I mean, in gravel races, I think people are riding, how would I word this? You know, like it's majority gravel, right? For like, you know, if you look at Unbound or some of the bigger, you know, especially U.S. gravel races. But like in general, I think just how mountain bikes became very popular just for people to ride around in the 90s. I think people just liked having wider tires. I think gravel, and that's why hybrids and all that stuff kind of came out. Oh, man. I think the same thing is happening with gravel bikes. And it's like I said, a lot of people just want wider tires. They want to be a little more relaxed on their bike than a traditional road bike. Then when they walk into a shop, a lot of the reasons a shop would be like, do you want to try this? Because a lot of people are going to like it way better. I have a friend who I really have ridden bikes with almost my whole life, and he had just given one of his vintage road bikes to his girlfriend, and I met him last week down at a concert, and when we were riding to go get another drink after, she was talking about how hard it was to get used to being way up on top of the bike, and that's really how it feels now when I get on a road bike. It feels like you're on the bike instead of in the bike, and I think just a lot of people aren't looking to be on something racy. And so when everyone's like gravel bikes are just marketing, I would say road bikes are just marketing because most people don't actually want to ride one, you know, most normal people. If you're not going to put on, you know, kit and all that stuff and go out for paceline rides, I just find most people when they get on something different like it better, you know, and for now, 35, 40 years, that's kind of been the trend that's going on. And I think that using the term gravel bike is the ultimate expression of a bike that's not a road bike, that's more comfortable. So Oh, nice. Metroid, you said you got a Stooge dirt tracker frame tomorrow. Awesome. Well, you did say you're an English major, Box Hill, and so I'm not even sure I know how to pronounce that word. I'm too paralytically particular. Man, I can't even say it. I get what it means from the sentence. Indecisive to own more than two bikes and your house is small, and that's one of the benefits I have here, as I've showed before. I have a giant basement, and I could have bikes and hang them on the wall. But when it comes down to it, there really are like three I ride a lot, and two that I spend most of my time on, and both could be called gravel bikes, but I do think the Gunner is a little beefier than what people would imagine as a gravel bike these days. So, Sim, you said you call your bike a graveyard bike because you often go through an actual trail, which is official and goes through a huge cemetery. And it sounds better than gravel bike or ATP. Nice. And that's like the same thing with me. The reason I choose my gravel bike so much now is even if I'm going to be mostly on the road, I might just want to take that rougher cut on the way home. Or as I always say, our roads just aren't that great around here. And my road bike just doesn't feel that much faster. And I'm not a racer, so I'm not in a hurry, you know. Thanks again for the 53 months, Budgie. Get a rusty trombone. Yeah, go walk in there and ask him for a rusty trombone. No, I agree with that. I agree that this Hunedu, bike packing equals more technical, bike touring equals more like road. I think that traditionally was the definition of the two terms. But as bike packing or as bike touring has become so popular, I think bike packing, and I've said this a few times in videos and on live streams, in a couple years, people are going to use that term just to mean putting bags on your bike and going camping somewhere. But I think, yeah, definitely traditionally that is the difference. People picture being out west and being on dirt roads or mountain roads as bike packing, and yeah, doing like a road tour as bike touring. But I just find that term, like bike touring, is going away. So, Cam said, ignorance is bliss. The wrong bike is okay until you try the right bike. That's for sure. I mean, I definitely feel that. Because again, when I started riding a lot, I had my old mountain bike. I didn't care. Then I saw my dad's vintage road bike, and I asked if I could have it and fix it up because he hadn't ridden it in decades. And yeah, I didn't really, a 26-inch wheel, early 2000s, still 90s geometry mountain bike, and then a vintage road bike. And I picked one of those two, and I didn't know about the huge gap in between that are way better bikes, you know? Would they have been called gravel bikes if the name hadn't been coined in the States? I say no. I agree. I don't think they would have. I think, yeah, I don't know what it would have been if the all-terrain thing or something like that, because I really think Unbound and what was called Dirty Counts at the time is really a huge influence on the whole thing, you know. Like I said, I went back and read the designer notes on the guy who helped design my bike with Raleigh, and that's exactly what he's talking about. He was like, this is a bike that'd be comfortable to ride, you know, unbound on, you know, and race unbound on and ride gravel roads. And also the term, just like mountain bike, I think, well, was coined in the western part of the country where, you know, the original people who were mountain biking in California were riding their bikes down a mountain, and the original, you know, gravel races were on gravel roads, and that's where the terms come from. And also, is it that negative that their legacy is in the name, you know? So thanks, Benjamin. This is last year's Tour de France Femme cap. Thanks, George. I appreciate that. That's the other thing I always try to explain to people, too. It's like when you live in an area like this, like, and I think I've even made full videos about this, like, I can't define a lot of the rides I go on. You know, like Strava now has that category to be like, what kind of ride with this? And I'll be like, well, I rode my bike on the towpath, which is crushed limestone, to go to the mountain bike trails, and I mountain biked, and then I rode back through the valley on pavement. Like, that doesn't, that doesn't. There's no category for that, right? So. I agree, Rock. Off topic, Champs Elysees with 25 was amazing. I think that was a much way better way to end the Tour de France this year. So I hope they keep it or they alternate it every other year or something. Benjamin, I have too many kids in daycare to afford more than one bike. Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't go and buy a bunch of bikes at once. Also, my two main bikes I traded at least the frames and a little bit of the components and labor for work. So that was also a benefit that I had. But Pudgy said a female friend got third in the femme race today. Pretty wild, given she only had 2 weeks' notice being selected. Oh, nice. Now I'm trying to think of who came in third today because obviously Lorena Weavers and Mariana Voss were the headlines going against each other again. So I love that they also expanded the Tour de France Femme to 9 stages because I think it's a super exciting race, even though they had 2 fairly flat stages in a row, but that's just part of pro racing. My gravel, what I consider my main gravel bike, which is drop bar gravel bike, is running 44s now. That's about the max I could get. Like Renee Ayers used to have 42s, or they still do. Those are what I always ran, and I ran Cannonballs by Terravale at 42. But when Renee Ayers came out with the 44s, I tried them, and I was able to clear those with a little bit of room for dirt and stuff. So, yeah, 44s now. If you count my Gunner is a gravel bike, that bike's running 55s. So, but I don't. Again, it's kind of a gravel bike, but I think ATB or rigid mountain bike would be a better term. I think Gunner designed it as more of a bike packing adventure bike, if that's a term you want to use as well. It's got 3-pack mounts on the fork, and it's kind of, it's not heavy as a Surly, but it's more, it's built well to have weight on it while you're doing chunky stuff. Yeah, I would run bigger if I could. I guess the Gunner kind of has fixed that problem, though, because now if I need to go chunkier, I do have another bike to grab. Bruce said you got a Marin 4-corner. Man, I'm going to cough a lot tonight. 2021. It's a cross between tour and gravel bike. Yeah. What's up, William LeBron? How is it freezing up? Let me know if the audio holds up. I do see that the frame rates are real low, but yeah. There's nothing I could do about it, by the way. So if the audio goes, let me know, and then we're done. But yeah, you could blame Time Warner, what's it called now, Spectrum, because they're an absolute garbage company. I pay for fast internet, and they can't make a fast upload speed. It's absolute trash. Like I said, they made me buy a new modem and all that, saying that was the problem. So I'm like, fine, I'll buy a new modem just to prove that it's actually your trash service. But yeah, like I said, called them, need to do it again. But yeah, I think 42 is kind of a sweet spot if you're going to ride a lot of road and ride at a pace where you care a little bit. But I did our whole last bike tour on the 55s, and we rode a lot of road, and I didn't care. But also, it's a loaded bike. We're not trying to race or anything. We're just out there to have a good time, and so that doesn't bother me. And like I said, even sometimes we do those mixed routes, and if it might lean over 50%, some chunky stuff, I'll take the sweet bar bike with 55s and be fine. So. Danny said one thing you learned from the guys at Dirty River is the difference in fast tires and slow tires. Coming from a mountain hardtail background, it's amazing the difference. I agree too, because you would look at the knobby Renair's tires and think they're going to be so slow on pavement, and they're not. They are They roll really, really well. They do buzz a little, but yeah. So I'm really happy with. They're not the only ones. I know there's a number of tires that people really, really like that that roll faster. I didn't mind the Cannonballs either. I think Gravel Kings roll pretty quick. I just don't like them because they throw up a lot of stones if you ride like crushed limestone trails and stuff like that. Like the term mixed terrain to describe a ride, but it sounds horrible name for a style of bike. Yeah, mixed terrain bike. And again, I mean, if it would have caught on first, we just wouldn't even think about it. Why? That's what I thought, but apparently, people still think about it a lot. I did lose. I think I missed a couple in here somewhere. Oh, Pudgy, I meant to message you back about that. For some reason, I need you to send that to me in a different way. I couldn't get it off the phone. It was so weird. I don't understand what was going on, but I'll explain that to everyone later. You are right, and I did mean to message you about that. So, kind of. Oh, George, I do remember you bringing this up. If I knew where the Akron Schwinn was, you said it was located in Talmadge, where Ritchie Sporting is now located. Until, 1989, really. Hmm. I can't pick. Do you know where the Ritchies and Talmadge is?
It's on 91,
Oh, okay.
about a quarter mile off of the circle.
Ah, all right. It's just riding out that way. Well, I always am because I take the Freedom Trail. But yeah, becomes Canton Road. Huh. Cool. Yeah, there was when we were in. I probably brought this up when you said it last time. Warren, Ohio, on the outskirts of their town, they had still an old Schwinn bike shop. It wasn't open anymore, but all the signage was still up on the front, which was pretty cool. Can't remember if I got a shot of that or not. Sounds smooth. Good, good. Yeah, now it's way back up high, the connection, so yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, Danny, have been talking about the mezcals and really, really liking them. I have a number of friends who are running those. I have a number of friends who don't like dealing with the sidewalls on Rene Ayers tires to run tubeless, and they've switched to those. So, but I've never personally run them. But yeah, I run the standard casing Rene Ayers on my gravel bike, and they do take some paying attention to. But I run the endurance casing on the Gunner, and I've had like zero issues with the endurance casing, whereas the sidewalls on the standard casing, I sometimes blow them out. Then I have to run tubes in there, or they just weep with certain sealants, so they won't hold the sealant. So, but yeah, just depends on how much tinkering you want to do with your tires. Metroid, you run 48 Rene Ayers on 650 and 700. Those are your go-to sizes. Yeah, what sidewalls do you run on those? I'm interested to try their new ones with like the more flat tread down the middle. When I do wear out the Rene Ayers like full knobby ones I have on the Rally, I think I will try their other ones. I haven't looked at what sizes they come in, but they did make that one with like there's already a tire brand who makes them, but like they have like the center, like the rubber is like smooth down the center and the knobbies on the side. So. William Wilkie, you have two main bikes, a touring gravel bike with 40 and a rigid mountain bike with 2.25 inches. The touring bike is definitely faster, but the mountain bike feels fast enough. Yeah, that's kind of how I am with the Gunner, if you want to consider it a rigid, mountain bike. For most things I do, it feels fast enough. chunky tires tend to do well on the road. Yeah, there are. I mean, it's not really the width as much as like there are mountain bike treads that are slow. Like you could feel that they're noticeably slower on the road. But yeah, width is, I don't know, definitely something that the science is proving is up to a point not that big of a deal as we watch the pro peloton get on wider and wider tires, and the people winning the gravel races have started to go with wider and wider tires as well. But when you watch the pro road racers race like the gravel world championships on those very smooth gravel, they just ride their road bikes now. They don't even bother with the gravel bikes. But you're also talking about people who are pedaling and moving so fast they're like not even contacting the wreck. Look at that cat. Passed out hard. Edmund's over with Dave tonight. William, on your adventure bike, you have 650B by 2.35 mezcals. Nice. And across 700 by 38 Gravel King and a 35 in the back. I wonder, do you run the 35 in the back because your chainstay limits your size probably? But I, for a while, got away with like running 38s off-road, and it was more of vintage road bike conversion. But now that, like for a lot of what we ride, that feels too narrow. But oh, Astropup, Thumbs and Warren got a bike there as a kid. That's what it was. Okay. That it didn't look like it had been open for years, and it looked like it became a different bike shop. That must be what it was. That left up their Schwinn branding from when they were an actual Schwinn store or something. Would be my guess. You just cut your wheel weight in half and you'll ignore your tires for now. Yeah. I've still never run. I don't have any really light wheel sets. Like the Aurons are not heavy. You can see one of the rims behind me, but they're like surprising when you feel with no tires on or anything. They're definitely not a heavy wheel set, but they're not a lightweight carbon wheel set, you know. Metroid, you said you're running the Endurance casing. Oh, so the semi-slick is 700 by 40. Oh, they will be making 700 by 48, and it's 700 by 44 for now. Oh, that's perfect. That would be absolutely perfect for me. So, yeah, that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably do those in the standard casing. I am running an ultralight casing on the front right now because it's actually, I said my tires are 42. That's 44. That's a lie because I'm running a 42 in the front and a 44 in the back. But it's because my friend E sold me a ultralight casing in 42 for $5. So like a $90 tire. And then he said, you just have to promise to use this. And so I did put it on when the front tire wore out. But it's got a black sidewall, and the difference between the black sidewalls and the tan sidewalls on the Renaires, they're not even the same tire, I would say, because I haven't had a problem with the front tire. Like I still do have to put, air in it more like a kind of like you would on a road bike, every few rides or even almost every other ride. But it definitely holds the sealant better than the tan sidewalls. But running silver rims, you got to have those tan sidewalls. Oh, William and Brown, that's right. I remember you telling me that you run tube on everything. So yeah, definitely less of an issue with the casing as far as worrying about sealant. Yeah. Benjamin, I don't really have a bar tape recommendation because I literally walk in the bike shop and look at what's on the wall, and half the time I pick it because of color. And the bar tape I'm running on my drop bar gravel bike right now, Large Marge just put on for me, and it was a blue that matched the blue touches on the bike, and it's actually really cheap stuff, and it's held up better and is less stained than any of the expensive stuff I've ever bought. So I think I'm over a year on it, and it's fine. But I couldn't even tell you the brand name. So yeah, I bet people in the comments would have good recommendations. I really don't. I get something different every time I walk into the shop. I think is there a brand, Lizard Skin or tires, but is there a Lizard Skin handlebar tape too? I don't know. I had some black stuff that felt really good and really grippy on that bike for a while. But again, I walked in and was like, I'll use this one. It feels nice. And yeah, it's just something I'm not particular about.
I thought Lizard Skin, shape would make sense, but they make grips for like hockey sticks,
Oh, maybe they do
and
then.
sticks,
Yeah, maybe it was.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like some of the nicer feeling stuff I had. I just didn't
I like the physic. Is it physic or physique?
physique. Yeah. Oh, I do have some boxes of bar tape behind me, and then it might make me remember something. But yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't recommend something because I don't really have a good enough opinion on that. Pudgy said Arundel or Arundel, the one that looks like cobblestones. Yeah. Don, you said you switched over to full suspension mountain bike this month. Yeah, I definitely hear that. Like the trails real local to me are pretty smooth. So again, like at East Rim, I have to walk some of the rock gardens on a rigid bike, but none of them beat me up too much with like the 55s. Like Hampton is totally fine. And I've ridden both of them on my gravel bike too, but I do hear that. I feel like if I was going to go and get something like more mountain bike capable, I'd probably go fat bike. But even that, like at this point, I'm not ready for. But again, our mountain bike trails just are not rough. And there are some, I mean, but I just don't ride those because they're not fun. Oh, Danny said going from the Otso with the Mezcals to the Maxxis Recons on your mountain bike feels like pedaling through molasses on pavement, for sure. And again, when I was younger, though, I didn't pay any attention to it. I rode my mountain bike with mountain bike tires on the road, but it's all I knew, so I didn't care. And now that old mountain bike has studded tires, and when I end up on like sections of dry pavement, I could definitely feel how draggy it is. But it's also usually 22 degrees out, and I'm dressed like what's something that would be dressed really warm? An Eskimo? I don't know. It just doesn't matter when I'm out on those kind of rides. I'm just happy to be out at all. So, popped a tire today. Used bikes, an expensive road tire. That sucks. I've definitely gashed pretty bad some of the Rene Hertz tires, and it's pretty frustrating. But not enough to completely ruin them, but enough to have to run tubes until I wore the tread out because they're too expensive to be like, I'll just get a new set. So, hey, what's up, Josh? You said 700 by 45 Continental Terra speeds on your dirt wheels and 700 by 40 Pirelli Cinturato Evos on your road wheel set. Nice. I've never run any Pirellis, and I think it's just that the shops around me have never been Pirelli dealers. So they're like some of the tires I'm least familiar with, but familiar with Continental because I do a lot of work for them, but unfortunately none of it's their tire division. It's actually their hoses and stuff they bought from, well, they bought it from private equity, but it used to be a Goodyear company. So, and you really popped a tire if like people around you heard it pop. Yeah. Usually I just feel like, oh, all of a sudden like something's flat, and I'm like, God damn it.
Just riding like crap.
Yeah. There was one time where I gashed the sidewall on the gunner, and that went flat fast, and I knew it, but I don't think it made a noise. You have lighter wheels on your mountain bike than your gravel bikes, huh? You don't understand, Joshua. You said you don't understand why everyone on YouTube is so uppity about tubeless, because it's just a lot of peace of mind. Just way less. If you ride a lot of chunky stuff, you're just going to get way less flats. And again, there's more to deal with by dealing with tubeless, and if you don't have the...
Xdogs2 subscribed to the channel.
And if you don't have something to get enough pressure into the tire to get the bead seated, if you don't want to deal with just having sealant, and, or like I said, some tubeless tires, like a lot aren't, but the ones I like can be a little bit finicky. but yeah, it's just the peace of mind of going out and riding chunky stuff, and if something happens, most of the time the sealant is going to fill it back up. If you pinch flat a tube, you're changing a tube on the side of the road. But that's why you'll rarely meet a mountain biker who is not running tubeless. But then again, their tires can be built way tougher, and the sidewalls are usually thicker, so you're going to have way less problems on a mountain bike than when you try and run lightweight, really smooth feeling tires on a gravel bike and then go ride it on chunky stuff. So, but that's the reason. It's a ton of peace of mind when I have a tube in my bike. I think about it all the time now. I'm like, oh, I got a tube in that. I should I should be more careful. And I literally do feel like that with tubes in a bike compared to tubeless. So that's it in a nutshell. They're a little bit more of a pain, but you're going to flat on them way less. So would switching from 700 to 650 necessarily require longer brakes and shorter cranks? I wouldn't say it wouldn't necessarily require shorter cranks, especially if your tires are going to be bigger and you're going to have more volume, but that would be bike specific, because Otis, who traded me for the Rally, did say he had it on 650 for a while, and he did have to worry about pedal strike, but that's going to be more specific to the bike. As far as brakes, yeah, if you're running rim brakes, that's a pretty big difference. You would probably, if you're just running classic caliber brakes, you would probably need different brakes. I assume since you said longer, that's what you're talking about, because obviously that's not an issue with disc brakes. But Pudgy said the same thing. If you don't add height with a bigger tire, you might have pedal strike issues. Yeah, that'll be up to your specific bike and how low the bottom bracket and all that stuff is. But and the way you ride, I pedal strike a fair bit on my Gunner when I'm mountain biking. I don't know, but I do have shorter cranks on there now, though, because I didn't ruin them. I ruined that bottom bracket, and when Otis went to put a new one in, the crankset I had didn't work with it, so he switched it out with a different rotor crankset that he had on one of his bikes. So I think I actually have, did I go from 175 to 170s or 170s to 165? I think it's 175 to 170s on there, but I, to be honest, didn't notice the difference. I mean, it switched it right before we did our bike tour, and I'm like, maybe I noticed a difference, but the problem with that is trying to notice a difference going on a bike tour. I went from riding that bike, like, I was doing like mountain bike stuff this spring, to then all of a sudden loading it up and putting a rack on it and going on a bike tour. So you just change so many elements at once that it was, I don't know, hard for me to notice that much. Naptown, you haven't had tan sidewalls on anything since a set of BMX race tires in the 90s. You're just not about that supple life. I mean, there are supple black sidewall, I mean, for the record, tires. Like any of that extra light I have they are very supple tires. I'm saying I'm just not having the issues with the sealant like leaking through or anything, or having to put air in them quite as much. But there are certain bikes where just tan walls are the absolute right look, So, and I have a number of bikes that I'm looking at them right now, vintage ones that some do have all black tires but I know would look better with tan walls. But oh, George asked if I figure out the slippery grip. So I have Wolf Tooth grips on the Gunner. I put them on because Wolf Tooth had pink grips, and I've slowly been switching all the, or some of the, little things like the cable housings and the seat clamp and stuff like that to pink, and I put one of the pink generalized stickers on there. Available on my website. That's the one sticker I have down here, believe it or not. But so I got the Wolf Tooth ones just because they were the ones who sold them in pink, and that's what Otis ordered for me. But they, when I get hot and sweaty, are horrible. And I think part of the problem is that, my drops do come almost straight back, so my hands, when I'm mountain biking, are in this position. I'm trying not to do this in a way where everyone's going to make fun of me, but who cares? So just why worry about it after all these years? But yeah, so my hands are in this position on that bike, and so they were awful. They felt like they were slipping off, and so the only thing I figured out is like when I rode out to East Rim the other week is that when I got there, I had my gloves in my bag and put on gloves. I never ride with gloves in the summer anymore. So the only real solution I found to those wolf tooth grips is to wear gloves. But they're getting pretty worn, so I'm just going to get something different next time. The ones I had before were Vans, and I don't think Vans makes them. Someone just brands of Vans, but they have the pattern that is on the bottom of like Vans shoes, and I never had an issue with those being hot and sweaty. But so I put the wolf tooth on last fall, and I think I never noticed it because I'd just never ridden it in like really hot heat where I'd like wipe my head or anything like that. So I should get caught up a little bit. Naptown, same thing with me. I mean, I guess I don't know why I don't really care about bar tape. And I look and I have different bar tape on every bike, and there's one with Chinelli, there's one with Brooks. I think I select bar tape way more on looks and then a little bit of the cushion properties. I do like, having a little bit of cushion in my bar tape now. Josh said Ergon makes some of the longest lasting bar tape as far as cushion goes. We have seen, but lizard skin, so they do. Oh, it's super popular. So I really did like the black lizard skins I had on there. I just don't want black bar tape on there anymore. I would have to see what colors they have. See if I could get that ordered in like a blue blue or red next time I update on the rally. I wouldn't go white. My hands are always dirty. Yeah, Metroid. The both sets of endurance casing I have been tanned sidewalls too with zero issues. So, Vincent asked about sweet bar recommendations for gravel bike touring. I think my favorite are the Velo Orange granola bars that I've ridden. I've only had 2 sets though, so read what some other people say in the comments and take a look. I switched to those Soma Portmans on the Gunner, and I like them. But I think I actually like the Velo Oranges a little better. And they actually don't. I thought I was going to like the Somas because they came back more straight. But now I'm thinking I did like having a little bit of angle on the Velo Orange. And part of that goes with even what I was just saying about the grips and when I actually do mountain biking, how I feel like I'm slipping off them. For the bike tour, I don't think it really mattered. I think I was pretty comfortable on those Somas. But I was pretty comfortable. I don't have to say I think. Yeah, if you're never riding in the drops, the other thing to think about, though, is it might change some other elements of the way your bike fit is, like putting sweep bars on, changing stem length and stuff like that. But if you have a good shop, that's way easier to do. If you have to order everything online because you don't have a good shop, that's more of a pain in the ass. So, Tumbleweed Persuaders, yeah. Walnut Stulio bar tape if you're fancy. Oh, I'm way behind, huh? Yeah. Whiskey Mill Houses. One of the sets I really loved was Whiskey's, they were on the Gunner when I borrowed it from Otis a long time ago before it was mine. Those Whiskey Carbon mustache bars. But those are very spendy, so. Oh, here Brooks makes a fancy bar tape. Nice. Yeah, I brought it up, but you said it first, so. Josh H. popped a tire on a tandem on Ragbri. Luckily, it was 200 feet from the Mississippi River. Oh, after defending. So I get after descending major hills, yeah. Oh, Naptown, you had a tire on a bike explode in the office. Oh, yeah, Boxhill, you said you're putting off switching to tubeless on your 700C road wheel set because you spend so much damn money on tubes. Yeah, that is one thing I've never done. I don't have a modern road bike, though, for the record, but I've never tried to run road tires tubeless. I guess it's getting better, but I think at first were some issues. I think one of the problems, right, is there's just road tires fit so much tighter to the rims and or tighter or looser. It's just I feel like there's way more variance in rim tire combinations on road wheels. Like I just always felt like I had some that were almost impossible to get on, and some that like went right on. And I don't know. I just think anything. I guess the smaller anything is I don't. Well, I guess the bead that shouldn't matter. I don't know. I always felt that though. Oh, Joshua, you said you ride mostly paved roads. Yeah. Yep. No. If you ride mostly paved and you're not getting a lot of flats, then tubeless is probably not worth dealing with. Bender, you switch between 32 millimeter 700C and 47 650 tires all the time on your Jamis Renegade with no issues. Oh, nice. About the crank length and all that. So one thing and it's shorter cranks. It's funny, the shorter crank thing, like really, started to notice it with Pathless Pedal talking a lot about it and, Appleman and all that. But now it's become like a mainstream thing to talk about because Pogacar, who won his 4th tour, is running short cranks. And now roadies are paying attention to what the alt cycling scene has been talking about for years. But I don't know. I'm also, like 6'1", so it's something that's probably less of an issue for me. Pudgy, you got some XTR 165s that would be perfect for the Gungnar. Don, nobody wants to hear about winter yet. There's no cold weather rolling in here. We've had some cooler evenings, but man, it's still been hot. Today didn't get as hot as they thought it was. I did 30 miles and it wasn't too bad, but it's still been hot. Bouncing Bike Life said, I wonder why the term hybrid bike only seems to refer to cheaper bikes. Wouldn't a hybrid between a road and a mountain bike be the most accurate term? Yeah, I think it's the same thing we're talking about with mountain bike and gravel bike terms. It's something that got locked in as a bike path bike. And so people aren't going to buy a $5,000 bike to ride the towpath. So I think it just Trek, when they made their single treks, which again, not really a right term for a trail bike, right? But and Giant and all the big brands, they were making, they were only going to go so high with what they would spec the components on a bike that people are going to ride, flat bike trails on. I think that's pretty much the only reason. I don't think it only refers to. I think there are decent hybrids out there. There's, like Jay Dandy rides that really cool Gary Fisher that he's turned more into. I think would consider a gravel bike, but yeah, there's decent hybrids, but I think there's a ceiling with what you can sell as a, bike path bike, right? Yeah, I've never tried those, Two and Glen, or I never know how you pronounce that brand because I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it out loud. Ori, which is funny because for years I thought that brand was Dury. Just reading it on Bike Grips, I didn't realize that was an O. So, but I know a lot of people buy those. Maybe I should try those next. Because the pattern on them looks good, and they're more rubbery. The Wolf Tooth, yeah, it's hard to describe, but they don't work for what I do. Yeah, Donald, hopefully someone else can answer you because I just don't have the answer. One of the things, though, with crank leg is the major brands were only selling them in long, and so it's just I think a lot of shorter people are really realizing they enjoy shorter crank lengths more. I think it makes sense. But again, I'm over 6 feet and all my cranks are long, so yeah, gum walls on vintage bikes for sure. Naptown said the Vans grips, as far as you can call, are made by ODI. But you said correct. Hey, what's up, Wild Monkey? Feel like temp in Tokyo is 38C, so lizard skids are melting. 38C, I know that sounds hot, but I don't know that conversion. ODI is to grips what Pan Eraser is to tires. And so when Pudgy says that, he means Panaracer makes a lot of other brands' tires. They make Renaers. They make Ultra Dynamico. Those are the two big ones I could think of right now, but I know they make more than that. They don't make the Terravales though, do they? Gunnar, gotcha. We sell some expensive hybrids at our shop. I assume you didn't mean extensive. I assume you mean expensive. Look up the Top Tower Specialized Cirrus. I've heard that bike, but I've never. Don't think I ever have looked it up. Is it a flat bar? Like that's like a flat bar. I was showing $2,000, which, yeah, is not. No, I don't have it on the screen. Cirrus X 5.0. Yeah. No, I'm not. Yeah, it's more expensive than I think most people would spend on a hybrid. But again, I think if you looked at inflation and you looked at the higher end Trek hybrids from the 90s and stuff, they probably would be equivalent of $2,000, right? What are they? What group set are they specking with this? Middle of the road? Do they just have a specs thing that's not like the most words I've ever seen in my life? In my entire life, and I read the New York Times every day. Yeah. Annoying that I can't see that. Now, see, look, this is a SRAM. It's got a chain guard. They're still not going. It's still like, that would be like a 90s Trek 850 or something, right? This is also carbon.
When I was at the shop, they were something like that, mid-range, like decent enough, not top of the line. Components are nothing. 700, 800.
700, 800. But how many years has it been?
Nobody wanted it. I mean, it was like pulling teeth trying to finalize any sale.
Yeah. I'm guessing they're not selling a ton of those. Specialized Rock Combo, the original gravel bike. Is that the... I know I've seen that in articles. Is that the drop bar one they made? Like wide tire clearance. There's a couple bikes that were out there over the years that were... But if you say that, then you'll get someone... Like if I said that on YouTube, like you'll get the people who like will... like jump in, well, like, you know, in 1905, like they rode wide. It's like, yeah, every road was gravel back then. Like, of course, you know, all the mountaintop finishes in the first 20 years of the Tour de France were on gravel. Probably more than 20 years, right? You know, they didn't pave roads like that back then. So, but this is not a U-Box Hill. This is just the stuff I have to deal with. I don't think anyone likes the term hybrid. No one wants to call the bike they own a hybrid. Right. You wouldn't buy that $2,000 Specialized and call it a hybrid either. I'm sure that person calls it their trail bike or something, you know, which again, someone mentioned earlier is like a mountain term now, but yeah. Yeah, no one likes, I don't think anyone,
Where hybrid came from.
I do think it's hybrid between road and mountain because there just wasn't anything in that gap as much back
See,
then.
I took it more as like more road and like cruiser, like an upright road bike.
Yeah, upright road bike, bike trail bike, right. But I think the word hybrid is supposed to mean it's a hybrid between road and trail, just because that was a huge gap. Which again, to the point of the title of this, is why gravel bikes are so popular, because they fill that gap better than anything else if you're going to go actually off road. People who buy hybrids in general are not going to really go off road. I mean, my first one did, and I thought it was a mountain bike, and I rode it all over the Metro Park hiking trails. But I was a kid. I don't think anyone walking in who's 45 or I don't know, or young dads, right? You're gonna pull a trailer with kids in it. A hybrid's the bike, right?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Yunzer? Chris McCowan, you said you run 175, but been debating going to 165. That's another thing I should mention. I am over 6 feet, but my legs are disproportionately long, so I'm actually like, yeah, whatever. Uh, 100 degrees with 111 feels like, oh, that's crazy. I'd still ride, but yeah, I hear it's, most people shouldn't. 90s hybrids were 600 for the top end, if you recall correctly, which I understand. But if you did that with 30 years of inflation on it, right, what would that put you at? 1,500. The Cirrus is fugly. Yeah, I don't really like that. It's not my cup of tea. Here it is in black. Or like a gunmetal type look. Is there anyone else beside? Is this what brand? What website is this? Performance Bicycle? They don't have like a. What a stupid website. Let me try and click on something that's not
I hate to
performance.
say it, I forget the truck version, but I actually think the truck hybrid is a decent looking bike. Looks wise.
Yeah. Oh, there's the rock combo. It looks like we're probably dropping frames again, huh? Yep. We're getting near the end, anyways. Oh yeah, that is the bike I was thinking of. Those are pretty rad. Look. That's what everyone's doing to them now. Buy a stump jumper and put drops on it, you know. And then you realize you have to put a stem like that on it because it's, if not, your arms are a foot and a half below your butt. Because 90s mountain bike geometry sucks. I saw Pathless Pedaled has a stream coming out, and that's the title. It's like something about like 90s mountain bikes suck. I know it's clickbait. It's going to be an interesting discussion with, I think it's someone from Soma maybe, but it's true. Their geometry is weird and it makes no sense. Trek FX Sport SL6 is $32.99. Yeah. It's, why would you go and buy a carbon hybrid? I just don't like, no offense to anyone who did, but like, why spend that money on like a bike like that? I just don't really.
I think that's just lack of. I mean, what else?
That's just big brands trying to sell you something more expensive to people who have the money.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people walk into a bike shop that are upper middle class and they want to ride the towpath, and someone could be like, well, here's the top of the line for doing that, you know, and they'll be like, okay, there's a lot of people that $3,300, there's a ton of people that $3,300 is nothing, you know, so they'll buy those bikes, right? Yeah, it's weird to me, like, yeah, spending a lot of money on a ton of money on a hybrid. Not spending a lot of money, because like having nice shifting is nice, you know. Getting up to speed reasonably fast is nice, but that's aluminum. Modern aluminum is, the tubing is so good and it has compliance, and if you're putting wider tires and all that stuff, but yeah, for $3,200 you could be buying like a Surly or, you know, an All City. That would be such a better bike that would last forever and be upgradable to anything you wanted. But Camrat Dennis, you said you think your bike started out as a hybrid, but after years of changing parts, you don't know what it is anymore. If my original Trek didn't get stolen from Kent, that would probably be the same thing, you know. I'm trying to remember. That was like a Trek 750, I think. I see it. I see that my year one in the colorway once in a while, and then there's a few people I follow on Instagram who even have them, but for some reason I can't keep that number in my head. But it was a green bike that faded to purple by the fork. Hybrid doesn't bug me like the word moist bugs most. What about a moist hybrid? That's gross. Josh, you said SRAM Apex, Explorer, Access, carbon wheels, carbon frame. We sell a few of these a week as a company, as company wide. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a weird category to spend a bunch of money on, right? I don't know. I just feel like if you're getting into like really expensive group sets and wheels, you'd want a gravel bike, right? Because then performance is becoming a thing. Like, why would you? I don't know. And when you want something that just looks better, I don't know.
So I got a buddy that bought something similar to that. And he's wanting to hit the trails, you know, towpath, but he also wants to go to like Hampton and all this thing. You can ride anything on any bike.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But I just wanted to tell him, like, that's such an ugly bike.
Yeah, oh man, this would just sound horrible, but I have very specific tastes, and I'm also flexible, and I'm like if something works, but yeah, I just like, yeah, they're bikes for people who aren't actually like that crazy into bikes. You know what I mean? They don't pay attention to what a bunch of other bikes look like most of the people here in this chat and me. And I didn't used to either, you know what I mean? I put a rack on that Trek, and then I put a big old bell on it when I first got back into cycling, you know what I mean? I didn't, Toe Peak, classic Toe Peak bag with the drop-down panniers that, so yeah, I just got more into bikes, and then, yeah. So it makes sense, yeah. If I would have walked in and just stayed the way I was, as just someone who like wanted to commute and ride wherever, who knows? Maybe I would have walked in and bought a new hybrid at some point. Hard to say. Thank God my friend saved me. The less expensive versions that are still carbon, you sell almost daily. Yeah. And I get you can make carbon, pretty cheap too these days, but Prius owner, yeah, it's a hybrid. George P., your Trek 7200 that you bought in the late 90s was mostly used on the towpath. Still love riding that bike. Yeah.
Pudgy Pedal Pusher Super Chatted $1.99. Moist emoji, microbe emoji, drop of blood emoji, plunger emoji, DNA emoji, toilet roll emoji, soap emoji, nesting dolls emoji, magic wand emoji, paperclip emoji, linked paperclips emoji, rusty frombone, broccoli emoji.
Rusty frombone? Yeah, and George, like I said, when I got back, mine's a Trek 4900, so not nearly as nice, but yeah, that's what I did. I got back into cycling. I didn't change a thing about that bike except getting it tuned up and new grips put on and new tires, and rode it for a couple years, and it was just my bike, and I was totally fine with it. But just got more into it, and just, like I said, found bikes that fit the specific niches of what I like to ride in different ways. And I still ride that bike, but it's like I said, primarily winter now. And now it has sweet bars, the Velo Orange granola bars. And that changed it and made it so much of a nicer bike. Also, the Velo Orange Happy Stem to bump them up and bump them back. That bike rides so much better than it ever would have with those super narrow handlebars that it came with and all that. Those switched out a long time ago. I put much wider ones on there. But Dennis, you said you were lucky, though, your hybrid came with fork mounts. Oh, yeah, that is a nice benefit. Not Ellsworth said, wow, I hit that on the nose. $600 in 1990s dollars is $1,500 today. So yeah, $2,000 for full carbon and nicer group set is not crazy, I guess. I think I remember that Thrifty Sklar talking about calling bikes hybrids, but yeah. That's a bad marketing term, especially for a niche brand. You're not going to get away with that. Want a bike that'll outlive you? Yeah, I definitely have one in the gunner. The problem with the Rally is unless I get a new derailleur hanger brazed on, it's not going to outlive me. But everything else about it probably would. Daniel had a Ritchie in the 90s. Nice. Slick tires, city speed bike, nice black finish. Oh, is the audio failing? It shouldn't be. Everything is looking good from my end, but yeah, it says excellent connection. Yeah, I don't know. It might be on your end, Jay. Wingman running a Poseidon Next Gen $3,000 is good enough for who it's for. And again, just in my opinion, like that Poseidon looks much better than what they sell as hybrids. You know, it has more of a like gravel bike look to it. You know, even though it's a budget brand. If you're gonna drop some coin on a bike, go Thai rather than carbon. I would too, but it's interesting because I never even really, again, going from just a guy who rode his old mountain bike everywhere to meeting bike people and riding around and then going into an actual big gravel race like at Black Fork, then that was the first time where I ever felt like there were people surprised people were on steel bikes. I don't ever think about it. And I've had my buddy Aaron Novak on, who also gave us, is the rat too directly behind my head? The big rat. At Unbound, people being surprised to see a steel bike out there. But that's something that wouldn't have ever crossed my mind until you get into the race world. People are people buy bikes that aren't carbon? But yeah, if something happened, money's no object because money's always an object for me. But I was going to buy something really fancy, I would favor titanium over carbon. I'm not even interested in carbon, to be honest. But Yinzer, yeah, I would 15 to 20 years ago. I don't really know how long and as some people are saying, shops still do sell a lot of hybrids and brands sell a lot of hybrids. But yeah, I do think if you walked into a shop a number of years ago, they would sell you a hybrid and again, is a Fairdale with flat bars a hybrid? Pretty much, but it just has a better look, right? It's what really separates that from being a hybrid is they give it a really cool paint job, right? It's a really budget bike. Well, you get, how low do Fairdales go? $600-700 at the cheapest end, maybe? There's a couple other brands like Fairdale that we've talked about. State, has some, gravel bikes that are cheaper with flat bars. I mean, those are hybrids, right? Isn't that what they are? But you just make them look a little cooler. And don't call them hybrids, and they're going to sell better in general right now. But yeah, the general public, we're all bike nerds for the most part, so it's two different things, I think. And there's a lot of people walking a bike shop and they want either that Trek or that Specialized or the Giant because those are the brands they know, and so they feel like they're reputable. But, and you look at Shimano. Shimano sells absolutely trash group sets for those kind of bikes. So if you think I'm getting this bike has Shimano on it, that means nothing. Shimano makes the stuff that wins the Tour de France, and then that costs thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they make the stuff that they'll throw on a Walmart bike that should not even be legal. Yeah. I was thinking of another point with that, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, I met some, I went on a city-sponsored ride that I needed to photograph for something, whatever. Long story, it's pointless, but rode with someone I had never met, a couple, and they were both riding these Schwinn's, and they were Schwinn branded, but they were absolute cheap Walmart things, and the guy was having all these problems, and I was trying to help him adjust it, and so was my buddy Tony, and it was a real pain because the components were so trash to get it to like work right. And he was like, I bought it because it's a Schwinn, so you figure it's got to be good. He's older. He doesn't realize that Schwinn is not Schwinn. Like, this is not a Chicago-made bike. This is someone has bought the name and is slapping it on the side, and it works because this guy got fooled buying a $350 bike that he thought was, well, it's a Schwinn. Like, so it can't be that bad. No, it's not a Schwinn, and it is that bad. All right. What's his name did that bike farmer that was talking when he was on Pathless Pedaled about how, I think it was Bike Farmer. Nah, it was a different bike shop guy, but was talking about the whole thing of like these bikes should not be allowed to be sold. They're just, they're instant dumpster, stuff. 2 years and they need to go in a dumpster. So. Racer, that pops up in my feed all the time, and I don't think I've watched many of his videos yet for no reason. I have no judgment or opinion on his channel. I just don't think I've clicked on it. Outlaw, what would be some good alt bars to put on a 10-year-old Trek FX 7.2? Like I said, my opinion is still the same. It depends on if you want to switch the stem as well, but I really do like sweet bars, so I really like the Fellow Orange granola bars, and I like my Somas and some of the other ones people recommended. But yeah, if you want to get the rise out of the bars, man, I could picture a bunch of bars with rise in them, but off the top of my head, I don't know names. Other people might be able to throw something in there. Oh, George, you also put sweet bars on your 7200. Yeah, makes those bikes handle, like, just ride so much better. I'm using live chat, so I see everything because it's not a busy enough chat, so I should be seeing every chat message. Yeah. JR said, thanks for the great videos. We should ride more around Dayton. Yeah, and me and Aaron did a day trip down there and hit some different paths than we did on our last tour. But again, it's not necessarily in our backyard, so it has to be a trip. It's not a day trip. It's definitely an overnighter. At least for me, I don't like spending that much time in the car. But I like Dayton as a city. And I had, we only rolled through this time. But yeah, I've spent some time there and I've always liked it. If you're going to drop some coin on a bike, buy the one you like. Yeah. I guess my point was that, people walking into a bike shop. Yeah. I guess if you walk in and something catches your eye and it's that Specialized Cirrus, that's fine. It's a bummer that you didn't see the other ones that look way cooler. Yeah. Maybe check your prescription. If I'm dropping that kind of money, I might as well go custom steel. Yeah. Yeah.
So people see the drop bar and, well, that's a road bike. I don't want to ride the road bike.
Yeah. Probably. People try to steal carbon bikes. Nah, bike thieves. Bike thieves are stupid. Most bike thieves are stupid. They're not trying to steal anything but a bike. A good paint job is more value. Like this, There are people who target nice bikes, but looking at the spread of bikes that have been stolen that from people I know, it's just like it's someone who will steal a bike. Yeah. Bike thieves in general outside big cities are not, well, even in big cities, it's a mix. People will steal any bike, so. What about Shimano GRX? I haven't heard anything about that model. What do you mean? That's just their gravel group set. So GRX is just between road and mountain bikes. But it's hear a ton about it. That's what almost every gravel bike is spec'd with if it's not SRAM now. Hey, what's up, Sam? You should do CX on a modern Schwinn. I'm sure there's like 20 videos about that. The whole buying like the cheap bike and like trying to ride it hard thing is a pretty popular category on YouTube, right? Love seeing the bike-shaped objects assembled in big box stores with the forks on backwards. Yeah. Yeah, Schwinn left not all of their production left the race bikes were still made in the U.S. into the 90s and even maybe beyond. But yeah, it doesn't I mean, Trek stopped making their bikes in the 80s, in the 90s in the U.S. for the most part and all that. But yeah, the whole thing about Schwinn now is they're not even like that company. They're just, a name. So. See you, used bikes. The $15 Shimano stuff is awesome. The $5 Shimano stuff is... Oh, I lost your tire. Your comment went away. The original Schwinn factory building in Chicago is fancy lofts now. Yeah. Even when Schwinn made stuff overseas, they made nice stuff. Again, like, making stuff overseas doesn't mean it's bad. Like, those are two different things. Like, most of the bikes we're all riding were made in Taiwan. Like, let's be clear about that. There's awesome bikes made over there. It's when you sell the name to some unscrupulous company that's just going to get them made in the cheapest way possible, with the cheapest components possible. Coco said, your Sears Free Spirit got stolen in Kent back in 81. Yeah, I went down to go home for the summer, and my bike lock was sitting there just cut. It was really depressing. Modern Schwinn is not a win. Yep. I think we need to wrap it up. What time is it? Yeah, 10:23. I'm going to try and get up early and ride bikes tomorrow because I want to go, I need to go do some photography jobs with good light, so that's my plan. Got up to do it this morning, had my bike ready to go, and it was super cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted
Till for quite some time.
Yeah, it wasn't, I don't think the sun came out till early afternoon, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I have a couple things. Some's art and some's just for a couple companies. So that's my plan. So yeah, I don't want to stay up super late, but Roberto, I can't get into that question right now. My point is that I don't think there's a particular thing that makes a gravel bike a gravel bike. It's just there's a general idea of what a gravel bike is. So, yep. Oh, Ed, yeah, my first vintage bike I fixed up, my dad's bike was a Motobacon. So, same with me. I always kind of wanted like a higher end one, but then now I just don't ride vintage road bikes anymore, so it'll probably never happen. But all right, dudes. I think we're gonna have Party Size on next week. I can't remember if I said at the beginning. He's on a work trip, and that's why we didn't do it tonight. Don't have a topic picked out yet, but so next week I think will be Party Size, and 2 weeks I think I'm actually going to be working in New York, New Jersey area, so we probably won't stream then, but we'll burn that bridge when we come to it, as they say. All right. Peace.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Cause
Yeah.
this time
Fitzwater photo.